vehicle is pitching downrange.
All right, 30 seconds into flight. The rumbles are still building here in the Raptor's nest.
Just see the trail it's leaving behind. Absolutely amazing. And to describe it to you, and you can see it, but from the ground, it almost looks as though a cloud of smoke with its own mind is just shooting through the sky. This is absolutely incredible. Again, you're watching the SpaceX Falcon 9 rocket launch from Vandenberg Air Force Base, this visible from Bakersfield. Absolutely incredible.
Shalom, Kahala Yahweh Ba'Shem Yashai, Ba'Shem Ruach Double honors my teachers, the apostles and elders of Great Millstone. Peace and mercy to the elect, with the house of David reborn again in this generation. And Shalom to the 130 Yasharallah, who today are known as the Negros, Latinos, and Native Americans, who before losing our true heritage, we were known as, and still are, the true Hebrew Israelites of the Holy Bible. In today's lesson, we're going to talk about the beast system that is being built all around us. And in this lesson specifically, that system that is being built in the heavens, and which is why the video is called EDOM Seizes the Heavens. Because you see, the term heavens isn't talking about only the place where the Lord lives, right, in the higher dimension, but it's also talking about the sky, which Esau, we already know, pretty much is the prince of the air, right? He owns everything in the air, which is why you have to register and abide by his laws. Every airport has an English translation in its signage and whatnot. And why is that? Well, because Esau, Edom, which is the biblical name for the so-called Caucasian race, are the current rulers of the world, and hence the laws of the land follow their desires. Now, that being said, what we just watched is the deployment from 2019 to 2024 in February, that of the Starlink satellite system, which they say it's for consumer grade, but really it's a military system. And what it ultimately is going to be used for is to track the RFID microchips, which are going to be implanted in people's hands or heads, as the scriptures say, in which the scriptures also refer to as the mark of the beast. This is Revelations 13 and 16. And he causeth all both small and great, rich and poor, free and bond, to receive a mark in their right hand or in their foreheads, and that no man might buy or sell save he that had the mark, or the name of the beast, or the number of his name. Here's wisdom. Let him that hath understanding count the number of the beast, for it is the number of a man, and his number is 666. This is where the 666 comes from, okay? Now, when it says he, this is ultimately talking about the end time race that will be in rulership. That race being the race or nation of Edom, the so-called Caucasian race, which also includes the so-called Israelis, because they're just as Caucasian as the other Caucasians, but they come from a different lineage within the Edomite tribe, that being the head tribe of Amalek, okay? And hence this is why they are the ones on top, because they are the firstborn and receive the firstborn's blessing and also inheritance. So this is why spiritually they're, and physically, they're ahead of all the other Edomites in the world. Now, the reason why we read the scripture is because, like I said, what we're seeing in this lesson, the videos we've seen in the beginning, is the setup of the system which this mark is going to work off of, okay? This mark, when you look into it, it's a Greek word for charagma. Charagma means an incision, something that's basically inserted into you, okay? And this goes back to the spiritual laws of a slave wanted to stay with his master. His master would have to use an awl, which looks like an ice pick, and basically strike it through the slave's ear into the post of the house, right? Symbolizing, making a physical ritual to signify that the slave wants to attach himself forever to his master, okay? And that's ultimately what these Edomites are trying to do to the inhabitants of the world, and hence binding your soul to their servitude, by the biblical law. Because again, you see these Edomites on top, they know that the Bible is true, and they also understand that physical rituals have spiritual implications. And this satellite system that now surrounds the entire earth, as we've seen in the video, is part of this physical system that is going to affect the world spiritually. Well, how's that? Well, it's going to lead to the infrastructure that these RFID microchips need to track you everywhere you are. Like, what did Trump say? They're going to have a tracking system that's in the land, the sea, and the air. It's going to be everywhere. Okay, this is why every nation is going to be switching over to a digital CBDC system, including the supposed bad guys, right? The BRICS nations. But again, this is just Esau trying to be slick, and these other nations just going along with his schemes, so that way they could also benefit. And you see the way that Esau has seized the heavens, right? He didn't ask for permission. He doesn't make a contract with the other nations to do things. No, he just launches things, and he has taken control of the heavens. Well, there's other nations out there like Moab, the so-called Chinese, which are also launching into space. The Indians, Elam in the Bible. You also have the other Edomite nations, right? But for the most part, Edom, right, the so-called Caucasian race, controls space. Okay, now they do it through different countries that they control, but Esau is going into space. And why is this so important? Well, like I said, it's multiple fold. Okay, they're going to use it to set up that system to help track their mark, but also because it's going to be used as a weapon. There's weapon systems in these satellites, because again, it may not be the Starlink satellites, but there's other satellites that go up there that are more than just a surveillance tool, right? They're direct energy weapons, DEWs, right? We've already seen them used here on Earth, and then you could bet that there's also other direct energy weapons facing into space, right? There's going to be a solar generator or an artificial solar generator that's going to be launched into space, I think this year, that's going to replicate a star, right? And it's going to basically be used. They say their explanation is that they're going to use it to calibrate the telescopes on the Earth to determine the distance of other stars. Now, that's Esau's BS excuse, because you know this is ultimately going to be one of his weapon systems. Because again, who can go up there but Esau and the other nations that are complicit with him? But I said all that to say this. This scripture here explains how the Edomites, which are basically referred to here as the king of Assyria, right? The elites of the Edomite Empire. The world refers to these people as the one percenters, the elites, the bankers, right? That's who this is talking about, right? Because right here, Isaiah was getting a vision of the end times, and he had seen America in his vision, but because at the time Assyria was coming down on northern Israel, and it was like considered like the biggest nation that was in power during that time, right? For the most part in that region, Isaiah referred to this city in his vision, which was large and vast, as that belonging to the Assyrians, which is again another reason why in the Bible America is called by many different names: Babylon the Great, Egypt, or spiritual Egypt and Sodom and Gomorrah, Assyria, Nineveh, right? And again, it's because all of these scriptures are a product of their times, and these prophets, not knowing the names of places in the future, try to describe the places just as they try to describe what they had seen, which is why they call a nuclear missile a flying roll, or a nuclear blast that the sky rolled away, right? Well, this right here explains how these Edomites, not only how they took over the world, but how they boast themselves and how they feel about them taking over the world. Let's start here. It says, this is Isaiah 10 and 12. Wherefore it shall come to pass that when the Lord hath performed his work, his whole work upon the Mount Zion and Jerusalem, right? Pretty much when the Lord has finished scattering the Israelites, who today are the Negro, Latino, Native Americans, and anybody whose father's lineage goes back to that bloodline. Once he's finished scattering us, punishing us, putting the curses on us, putting us in a low place, what is the Lord going to do? I will punish the fruit of the stout heart of the king of Assyria. Okay? The Lord's going to take his judgment and apply it to these Edomites. And the glory of his high looks, for he saith, by the strength of my hand I have done it, and by my wisdom, for I am prudent, and I have removed the bounds of the people, and have robbed their treasures, and I have put down the inhabitants like a valiant man. And my hand hath found as a nest the riches of the people, and as one gathereth eggs that are left, have I gathered all the earth, and there was none that moved the wing, or opened the mouth, or peeped. Shall the axe boast itself against him that heweth therewith? Or shall the saw magnify itself against him that shaketh it? As if the rod should shake itself against them that lift it up, or as if the staff should lift up itself, as if it were no wood. Therefore shall Yahweh Bashem Shai, the Lord of hosts, send amongst his fat ones leanness, and under his glory he shall kindle a burning like the burning of a fire. So you see, like I know that was a bit of reading, but I wanted to get this whole rundown to explain, right? This is what Isaiah has seen, which is ultimately the downfall of America and the Western powers, right? The NATO and UN system, which is basically the beast. America, which is the whore that's seen riding the beast in John the Revelator's vision, right? Now, in this case here, it tells us, right, that these devils, they think that by their wisdom and by their strength, they were able to create these rockets, able to design these satellites, right, able to deploy them and track and use them to track all the inhabitants of the world and be masters over them and be as gods upon the earth. See, this is the devil's reasoning. These Edomites, this is what they think in their mind, right? They believe that they've already wrapped up the game and they just gotta show up for the prize now. But the thing is that isn't how this works, right? Though they've robbed the treasures of the people, right? It says, rob their treasures, and I have put down the inhabitants like a valiant man, right? These devils, when they talk about when they went to war, they saved the Jews and all this stuff, and they did this, they brought freedom and democracy to different places as if they're heroes or valiant men. But when you dig any further than the surface, you start finding out the atrocities that America and the westernized powers that these Edomites control. You see all the atrocities they've done, right? Eisenhower's death camp after World War II, the false flag attacks like the Gulf of Tonkin and the Titanic and all this horrible wicked shit you hear that these Edomites have done, right? These devils lie and change the narrative so that way they come out looking like the hero, right? The whole his story idiom is made specifically for these devils, man, because it's their history that they're writing. They write the narrative. And this is why, by the way, these devils are so blatant in their lying, right? For us who are living through it, it is egregious what these devils state on TV, right? They literally accuse their opposition of what they're doing. And it's because we're not the targeted demographic for those recorded videos. You see, Biden, Hillary, Netanyahu, all these Edomite devils, they believe like in 100, 200, 300 years that these videos are going to be used to immortalize and glorify them. Yes, they're going to be hated now, but in the future they're going to be the George Washingtons of the New World Order. That's their perspective. So again, this is why they have that whole blatant lying spirit upon them, right? Because again, they're planning to write their own his story about the current events. They're going to erase all the uprisings. They're going to erase you Negro, Latino, Native Americans from the books. They're going to do to you, or they're going to want to do to you what the Lord's going to do to them by wiping them out of existence. Okay, think about that, Akim. Now, the rest of the scripture, when it talks about that these Edomites have gathered all the earth, that's what you're seeing right here by those satellites traveling around all the earth. What about the people who don't want to be in this system, that just want to be left alone, right? That don't want to be involved in a digital ID tracking system. They just want to live their life the old-fashioned way and off the land. They can't now because why? Because Esau has gathered all the earth, right? And what is his reasoning why it's okay? Because none moved the wing. Nobody stood up to him. And by the way, the people who did stand up to him, he made sure to perform a coup in their nation, or that they had a long walk off of a short deck, right? We hear about all the Clinton body counts and whatnot. All these people, all these New York cops who end up committing suicide. No, man, they didn't commit suicide. They found out stuff that they weren't supposed to see, and they ran into Amalek's deep state. But that's the way that this works. Because why? Well, you see, these devils did not do all this by their own power. Their own hand did not give this to them. It was the current dominion of the world, and their strength and their know-how over the other nations was given to them as a blessing by the Lord. This is Job 9:24. The earth is given into the hand of the wicked. He covereth the faces of the judges thereof. If not, where and who is he? Well, where is all over the earth. And who is he? It would be the Edomites, okay? The descendants of Esau, who was prophesied to rule the last kingdom upon earth before the second coming of the Messiah. And not only would they take control of the earth, or at least attempt to, but they would do it in a wicked way through their might and weaponry. Okay, this is the Edomite blessing. And this is also by the way the way that the Lord shows the Israelites the meaning of good and evil. This is how we righteously get that information without getting it, the wrong way. that by going into magic and Satanism and committing idolatry. This is Job 20 and 23. When he is about to fill his belly, God shall cast the fury of his wrath upon him, and shall rain it upon him while he is eating. And I'm just going to read this whole thing because it's pretty much sums it all up. 24. He shall flee from the iron weapon, which is like nuclear, missiles that are going to be coming, the hypersonic missiles that are currently being positioned around the United States. It says, the bow still shall strike him through. Right? These devils are going to get hit by these nukes. Right? And when I say these devils, I'm talking about America along with the NATO westernized powers. Right? Because they're all going to get bombed. Okay? They're going to be destroyed, obliterated. Right? This is why Russia just made that military treaty with North Korea. I think it was yesterday or even today that Kim Jong-il came out and talked about the devastation that's going to come to America, because he was told the inside story. He knows that these these Edomite devils on the Russian side, that they're planning to invade America and basically do America dirty, take it down, so that way they could then bring forward their new world paradigm where it's a multipolar system, right? Russia has their part, Amalek has his part of the earth, right? And they run it jointly, right? But ultimately it would be a perpetual Edomite empire of slavery for all the other heathens, but definitely for us Israelites, right? We would not survive an Esau empireship over the world. Okay, these devils would want to kill us off because they know that they believe, I should say, that if they kill us off, then they'll get the blessing, which at first was theirs, but was taken away from them by God and given unto us. Right? Verse 25. It is drawn and cometh out of the body. This is talking about the nuclear missiles when they come out of those ground silos, where they come out of the ground. That's what Job seen in this vision. This is what he was trying to describe here. Yea, the glittering sword. Glittering sword is the nuclear missiles, right, that are in space and being hit by the sun and glittering, cometh out of his gall. Terrors are upon him, right? These Edomites, they know that they're going to lose. And not only that, but when things start to go down, they're going to go ahead and run into tons of problems. Their military isn't going to be as powerful. Their plans to stop the total collapse of the economy is probably not going to work, or it's not going to work at all. And their plans they're going to notice that their plans are all falling apart and that they're being revealed. It tells you in Job, I think it's a little further, that all the people are going to rise up against them, right? Verse 26, all darkness shall be hid in his secret places, right? This is the occult, the sex trafficking, the Jeffrey Epstein, the blood transfusion to stay young, adrenochrome, the financial corruption, right? The poisoning of the skies, the food, the perpetual depopulation upon the rest of the heathen nations that these Edomites are doing. All that, right? All that darkness, is what is inside of Esau's, chest. Okay, in his what is it? The treasure trove of his inventions. This is what he has. All darkness. Continuing. A fire not blown shall consume him. Right. That's ultimately talking about the nuclear blast. Right. How it just kind of starts out of nowhere, and it grows. Right. Like it grows like a mushroom. Right. A mushroom cloud. It shall go ill with him that is left in his tabernacle. Right. So those Edomites that don't die off in the immediate destruction with the nukes and the war, it's going to be bad news for them. Okay, what is that bad news? Well, that they're going to go into slavery. They're going to go into captivity, and they're going to be in slavery, and they're going to bring forth the other Edomite people who had died off in the end world events, Armageddon. Those Edomites are going to come back into slavery, being birthed through those Edomites that had survived and went into slavery. Verse 27, the heaven shall reveal his iniquity, and the earth shall rise up against him. Now here's the point, the reason why I'm reading all this. When it says the heaven, this is ultimately talking about the satellites up there in space, right? That heaven. That is what's going to be revealing these Edomites' iniquity. How? Well, by the news, by things getting posted. Like this video right here that you're watching, right? This is a way that the witnesses, the northern and the southern kingdom, right? The northern kingdom being the Latinos and Native Americans, southern kingdom being the so-called Negroes. We're right now witnessing, and the Lord is making an inquisition upon these Edomites, right? And right now we're providing that testimony, right? And being those witnesses to show the world what these Edomites are doing, what they've done, and what they're planning to do, okay? And that's why it says, the heavens shall reveal his iniquities. And what's going to happen from everybody seeing all the corruption and wickedness that these devils are doing? Well, you're hearing about it now. This is why they're making anti-Semitic laws, right? Because they can't control the narrative, and people now are, if you go to X, it's a pure-on hatred for Amalek on that page, right? It says, and the earth shall rise up against him. This is the Lord basically destroying Esau's plans. 28. The increase of his house shall depart, right? He's no longer going to rise. He's not going to have good economies. His children aren't going to have kids. They're going to start making less and less babies, right? He's no longer going to grow, right? And we've already been seeing this, right? The birth rates for these Edomites has been plummeting over the last, like 50, 60 years now. And his goods shall flow away in the day of his wrath. Right? These devils are doing so much right now to appease the poor. They're giving things away. The economy is collapsing as well. Right? That's what this is talking about. Verse 29. This is the portion of a wicked man from God, and the heritage appointed unto him by God. And this ultimately is what's in store for these Edomites that have seized heaven and are setting up this tracking system that they're going to try to make everybody opt into by getting that RFID implanted in your hand or your forehead. But hey, remember what the Bible says. Anybody who takes that is going to ultimately be doomed and destroyed. So either way, hopefully this video was edifying, Akim. Until the next time, I want to give all honor and glory and praises to Yahweh, Bashem Yahushai, Bashem Rakak Shalom.